The racing cyclists of Burundi are not afraid to take risks. Whoever wants to transport goods in Burundi does so by bike. Distances are short. Burundi is one of the smallest countries in Africa.
It's very dangerous and fatal for the cyclists to hold on to the trucks.
Burundi lies in the heart of Africa. The main traffic route winds itself from the Rwandan border down to Tanzania. The first section of the route leads from Kayanza to Bugurama. Burundi is poor, even though the land is fertile. On the northern plateau, mostly bananas are grown, dozens of different types. Bananas are the staple food in Burundi. At the outskirts of Kayanza, the biggest city in this region, the farmers sell them to middlemen. Twice a week, Pamphlet Nazagwe does his bulk buying here. He is a professional beer brewer, a banana beer brewer. Banana beer is Burundi's national drink. Tharcien is responsible for the transport. Farmer Pamphlet does not dare to cycle the loaded bike himself. Even if you're an experienced rider, you put your life at risk.
First I ask for the price. Then I buy 3 types, just 3. A sweet type of banana, a flowery one, and one that's less dear. Obviously, the mixture is important. The beer is supposed to be tasty.
I know nothing about brewing. That's why I'm a driver and I'm happy to be able to transport Pamphil's bananas. That's how I struggle along.
Whenever he is not transporting bananas, Tharcien offers rides on his bicycle taxi. Tharcien has loaded 8 clusters onto his bike. Together, they make up for 160 kilos. He has to transport them 15 kilometers. Luckily, the first part is downhill. Three kilometers from his destination, there is a long ascent. Now Tharcien must really pedal. Tharcien is 22 years old. He never went to school.
Riding my bike is all I'm good at. I never did anything else. I don't even want to, except if I found less tiring work. I definitely don't want to be carrying anything on top of my head like the women do. It's exhausting to pedal, yes, but carrying things on my head, no way.
After 45 minutes, Tharcien reaches his destination, the banana beer brewers' village. Burundi is one of the poorest countries in Africa. Owning a bike is worth a great deal here. But Tharcien must already support a wife and 2 kids in his early 20s.
How can I save money with a job like this? It's just about enough to sustain my family and myself, nothing more. Look, I can't even afford new trousers. I am no dreamer. This job holds no future whatsoever.
Pamphil has been brewing banana beer, umbubira, on the farm next to his house and is in for 15 years now. He lets the bananas ripen in a pit for another week. The farmer can only process the bananas if they have developed enough sweetness. Otherwise, the fermentation process might not take place properly. Bananas with a thick skin are especially well suited for producing banana beer. His own family and a few workers from the village assist Pamphil with the production. The workers use fresh, cleaned hay to help them squeeze out the liquid. The hay also creates Pamphil's banana beer's special flavor.
My life as a beer brewer is a good one, really. I make good money and I'm able to pay the workers' wages. I will never be rich, of course. I mean, we can't afford to buy new shoes and things like that. But I don't have to go around stealing things. The family has enough to eat, and we can send the kids to school. Nobody tells me what to do, and I don't need to go chasing after my money. I am my own master.
It's still only banana juice. To turn it into beer, the liquid has to be stored for a few days. The brewer's yeast allows for fermentation.
It takes 2 days for the beer to be right.
2 bottles of this and everything spins round.
But right now it's unfermented. It doesn't make you tipsy.
But the beer Pamphil serves in his inn does. He doesn't know the alcohol percentage. He never measured it. Bicycle courier Tharcien drinks only after the work has been done. Drunk driving, much too dangerous when you're on the road of the racing cyclists. Here in the north, not only bananas are grown, but also coffee, tea, and rice. The road leading to the banana beer brewers' village continues on, leading south. To Bujumbura, the capital city of Burundi, it's 100 kilometers, and it's up and down the hill the whole way. The road serves as a transit route between Rwanda and Tanzania. Antoine Kabura has been driving it for 10 years with his truck. Normally, he only drives during daytime. Driving at night would be too risky.
The roads are all right, but much too narrow, sometimes not even 6 meters wide. Oncoming traffic often poses problems. You must always avoid the potholes and these many bends. Luckily, I'm a good driver, but for a main road, it's definitely too narrow.
Antoine arrives at Gitega, the second largest city of Burundi, with 45,000 inhabitants. Alex Iradukunda works as a reporter for the local radio station, Humorisa. Her job is to report on the traffic, which primarily means the situation for the cyclists.
Tell me, what are the difficulties?
For us cyclists, the trucks are worse. They make life difficult for us.
I hear this over and over again. They complain about the trucks. It really is a tough and exhausting job. Not to mention the bike thieves. Their numbers are increasing. It's bad when the bike is gone. And don't forget the accidents and injuries.
Gitega, situated in the center of the country, used to be the capital of the Kingdom of Burundi. It was also the administrative center at the turn of the century, from the 19th to the 20th century, when Burundi was a German colony. Today, the city is an important traffic junction. "26 reporters work for Radio Humorisa. Alex is done with a report on the cyclists.
It's difficult for the cyclists here, even those just transporting other people. But for those who transport bulky goods, it's even more difficult. But they have no choice. Their wives and kids need something to eat.
Another 60 kilometers to Bujumbura, uphill, downhill. Antoine Kabura could drive faster, but he knows what's happening behind him, so he doesn't want to risk an accident. Whoever wants to save time and energy holds on to his truck. Antoine finds this really annoying.
What they are doing poses a lethal hazard, not only for them, but also for us truck drivers. I often have to abruptly dodge due to approaching traffic or because of a pothole. The cyclists that are holding on to the truck can't see it coming. They're surprised by it and crash. Terrible. I often see it in the rear mirror. Some die. I think they should stop it. It's prohibited too.
Eric Nitsitunga has been transporting bananas from the north to the capital for 5 years. He fixed 14 clusters to his carrier. That's about 250 kilos, a lot, even by Burundian standards.
I have to tie the bananas to the carrier in such a way that the center of gravity lies in the middle. One mistake, and I would lose my balance in the curves and crash. I also have to make sure that the bananas don't get bruised.
Even Eric can't resist the temptation to let himself be pulled up the hill. It doesn't always turn out well. Some road sections are unpaved, difficult to drive for the truck drivers. There are some drummers with their heavy instruments along the road near Gishora. Their destination is a nearby hill. It is considered the cradle of the Burundian art of drumming. They used to perform before the kings. Today, they play the drums for whoever pays and to preserve peace. Just a few years ago, Burundi saw the end of a long civil war. The 74-year-old Antime Baranspekave is the leader of the Gishora master drummers.
I became a drummer because my ancestors were drummers. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father. They all drummed for the kings. This tradition must survive.
The police have been checking more often on the Burundi Highway lately. A welcome opportunity for the street vendors to offer their products. A nuisance for the drivers. Security check, the horn, blinkers, and headlights.
I check the papers and inspect the vehicles. It's all about increasing safety on the road.
The officers also punish cyclists that hold onto trucks. Whoever gets caught must pay a fine. Eric, the courier, puts up with that.
I think the cyclists should really stop holding onto our trucks. Too many accidents happen because of it. It should be banned. The police should enforce it. Or the cyclists could fix a little engine to their bikes for going uphill.
Eric heard the policeman's whistle just in time to let go. The Burundi government has almost doubled the amount of traffic policemen over the last years. Too many accidents occur on the roads in Burundi, also due to technical defects. But the main problem are the racing cyclists.
More action should be taken against these cyclists holding on to trucks. It's simply too dangerous. It is prohibited, but they just won't respect us.
Another 40 kilometers to Bujumbura. The closer you get to the capital, the busier the narrow road becomes. The Kibera National Park, with its 400 square kilometers, runs along a small side road. Once the splendid mountain forest used to be the king's holy hunting grounds. The Batwa live in a small village close to the national park in Busikera. Up until a few years ago, the hunters and gatherers lived in the midst of the rainforest. In 2007, the government decided to transfer them to the area next to the main road. Viola Iduvimana is 40 years old and has 8 kids.
I was born and raised in the jungle. This life is not easy. We have to collect wood and have to fetch water from far away. That's exhausting. But I enjoy the pottery. I learned it when I was a kid, watching my mom work. Now I can sustain my family with my pottery. I'm teaching my kids how to do it too. That's why it's going so well for us here.
Next door, the men sit together and carve wood. They have lost their traditional hunting grounds since the resettlement. But being so close to the main road opens new opportunities for them and their families. They can now sell their carvings and pottery to travelers. About 500 people live in Busikera. More than half of them are children. Apart from their handicrafts, the Batwa are farmers and breed cattle on the land they were granted by the government. The next stage on the cyclist road leads from Bugorama to the capital city, Bujumbura. Already early in the morning, the first cyclists are on their way to supply the markets. The Bugorama cyclists are famous throughout the whole country. They transport the heaviest and bulkiest goods and are the fastest riders. Bugorama, situated at the southern tip of the Kibera National Park, is a traffic junction. 2 federal roads meet here and unify to lead to the capital of Burundi. Bicycle courier Eric lives near Bugorama. The bananas here are cheaper than in the capital. Today, one cluster cost 8,000 Burundian francs, about €4. Together with his girlfriend, Eric lives in a small house right on the road to Bujumbura. They have no children yet. They want to wait until Eric has found a less dangerous job. The 200-kilo load literally pushes Eric downhill. He quickly reaches speeds of up to 60 to 70 kilometers an hour. He can't apply the brakes. His tires would burst. If the roads are wet, you're likelier to slip. But since he can't apply the brakes, he must wait for the next descent. Until then, it's brace yourself and hope for the best. Nobody knows just how many accidents occur and how many cyclists are actually involved. There is no such thing as traffic statistics in Burundi. Often the poor condition of the bikes is responsible. The last ascent up to Bujumbura is tough. Without help, no one would manage to move forward. And so a new profession emerged, the pushing assistant. The men earn 10 cents for the 15-minute tour. At the end of the long ascent, a little shop offers food and beverages. Eric doesn't always have enough money to buy something for himself after this exhausting ascent. Lucia, the shop assistant, knows Eric and puts it on the tab if he can't pay. She feels for the cyclists.
This work takes up a lot of energy. You need to be really strong in order to do this, especially if you have to push the fully loaded bike uphill. Often it weighs more than 200 kilos, so you need lots of energy. That's why I eat mainly carbs, for example, corn, and I drink hot milk every day.
From here to Bujumbura is another 15 kilometers, and it's only downhill. Eric trusts his steering abilities. He doesn't have much choice. He already had quite a few accidents, but up to now, he only suffered some bruises and bone fractures. Arrival in Bujumbura. The cyclists have to push their way through the traffic of this lively metropolis. The first shop Eric is delivering to lies at the far end of the city. There are many little shops and restaurants along the capital streets. Most of them can't afford professional advertising. That's why they hire artists like Clovis Milamwi. The 26-year-old makes a living of that.
Au fait, normalement, moi, je suis un artiste peintre et je
I'm an artist.
fais pas.
But if people ask me, I'd also do ads for them.
Mais si on m'appelle de faire quelque chose sur mur, ça va.
I take between 100,000 and 150,000 Burundian francs for such a picture. It's not bad.
C'est ça, au fait.
That would amount to the equivalent of 50 to 75 euros. Bujumbura is the largest city in Burundi. It is the economic center of the country. Around 400,000 people live here. It takes a very specific technique to park the bicycle in such a way that it doesn't fall down with the 200-kilo load on it. 5 times a week, Eric delivers 2 banana clusters to the little shop. For each cluster, he gets 12,000 Burundian francs. That's 6 euros, 2 euro of an income remain. Here in the heavy traffic of the city, the challenge for Eric is of a different kind compared to his cross-country ride. It's not about steep ascents, downhill racing, or the struggle with truck drivers and the police. The difficulty lies in maintaining the balance and being careful not to get hit by other vehicles, because then he'd fall. The Sioni market is in the northwest of the capital. 85 out of 100 Burundians work in agriculture, and they all try to sell their surplus on the markets. Since the main market in the city center burnt down in 2013, the number of traders and customers at the Sioni market has doubled. One of the reasons being the government banning the street trade. Everyone had to turn to the remaining markets. Alice Sindaye is 42 years old. She has been working as a market woman for 10 years now. When the main market burnt down, she not only lost both of her stands, but all her goods went up in flames too. She had to start again from scratch.
I have 4 kids and no husband. When the market burnt down and the hard times began, he just ran off. He never gave me any money to feed the kids and myself. I had to take out a credit loan. That helped us along, and I was able to build up a new stand here.
Eric delivers bananas to Alice as well. Today he is running late due to the rain. Normally he would get 15,000 Burundian francs for a cluster of bananas.
Would you lower the price a bit? I can only pay 10,000.
Today, Alice pays Eric €5 per cluster, which makes €1 an hour for Eric to keep. With the thousands of cyclists in Burundi, there is always something to repair or to patch. You'll find bicycle repair shops everywhere in Burundi, especially near the markets, where most cyclists deliver their goods. Alexandre Tassis has been the boss here for 5 years. Most bicycles in his shop come from China and break down easily.
These bikes are basically like all the others. We have to reinforce the carrier with iron bars. Good tires are important, though.
Bike courier Eric also comes here if he has enough money to afford new tires. The work is being done fast here, and he gets some good advice as well. Almost 100 mechanics work for Alexandre.
Some customers live nearby, but most of them come from far away. For example, from Gatumba or Bugurama. Some are foreigners coming from the Congo to have their bikes repaired here. They trust me.
Eric appears unruffled by the fact that he has to spend a portion of his narrow income in order to keep his bike in good shape.
It's very important to change tires. They were totally worn out. If there's rain like today, you can easily slip and fall. The tires burst more easily too, especially when you brake. I already patched the tube 4 times. It's just too dangerous.
Eric cycles back to Bugurama on new tires. The Burundi racing cyclists have divided up the district. There are those who cycle in from the north and go back in the evening. The others serve the southern route. The Burundi Highway runs along the banks of Lake Tanganyika for 200 kilometers heading south, right up to the Tanzanian border. Instead of bananas, people grow lots of oil palms here. They are being transported on bicycles as well. A bunch can weigh up to 50 kilos. The landscape in the south of Burundi is less hilly than in the north, so the bike couriers can travel greater distances, up to 100 kilometers per day.
If I don't have so much to carry, I enjoy my work. Like today, that's fine. I'm bringing the fruits to a palm oil factory. I then load the filled oil cans and take them to the market, where they're sold. The job is all right, so long as you hold the road well and don't have to worry about crashing in the curves. It's then I enjoy the work.
Faustin Dabazanye's palm grove is situated directly on the main road. Together with his son Patrick, he looks for ripe fruits, which he can later process in his palm oil factory, which is 10 kilometers away. Patrick is a gifted climber.
Even though we are next to the lake, the soil is dry and sandy, which is not good for the palms. They don't grow properly and bear little fruit. But we are lucky. Our soil contains many nutrients, in spite of the nearby lake. That's why our palms are so tall and strong, and the oil tastes well too.
Only when the fruits have taken on an orange-red color are they ripe for harvesting and are easy to pick. Patrick transports the crop from his father's palm oil grove to the oil factory himself. They have to be kept there for a few days before they can be processed to oil. Patrick much prefers climbing up the trees to carrying the heavy load on his bike.
I still go to school, and I only do this in my spare time to earn some money. Later, I want to take on a proper job, but right now I do both. Work as a bike courier and study.
Lake Tanganyika is the second largest lake in Africa. It shapes the landscape in southern Burundi. The riverbank is lined with little fishing villages along the road. Nyongabo slowly comes to life. At 6 a.m., the men returned from fishing. They spent the whole night out on the lake. Today, they didn't catch much. The waves were too high. For a few years now, they are only allowed to fish every second week in order to protect the fish stock. Cesare Salvatore has been a fisherman for 8 years now.
I believe the fishing restrictions are a good thing. It gives us fishermen a rest, and we get to spend more time with our families. And the fish can breed in those 7 days. That's a good thing.
After school, Patrick earns some extra money working as a bicycle courier. He doesn't have to sustain a family, so he feels less pressure. The bike courier has arrived at Faustin's palm oil factory. The production is in full process. The ripe fruits are loosened from the bunches and are cleaned, first of all. The oil manufacturer has meanwhile gotten used to the traffic and the ado on the adjacent road. Faustin has been in the palm oil business for 3 years now.
The oil palm means a lot to us. It always gives us oil, which we can use for cooking. We use the palm fronds as broomsticks. The remaining pips we use to make soap or shampoo. The fibers, also a byproduct, help to light a fire, and oil palm provides everything we humans need.
About 20 palm oil farmers have joined in a cooperative and operate the old squeezing machine together. Everyone can process his own fruit there. Faustin is checking the production flow. The water cools the machine so the oil doesn't go rancid. Twenty families make their living from this. Their existence, as well as the economy of the whole country, depends on the timely deliverance of fresh supplies.
In the heart of West Africa, people drive on roads which don't deserve to be called that. They're dusty dirt tracks which don't appear on any maps. They can only be traveled on with great effort and during a few months of the year. Risk is a passenger on every trip. In Mali's bushland, in the savannah of this West African country, there are few fully developed roads. The dirt tracks seem to make erratic lines on the parched plains. Most people here don't own a car. Minibuses, pickups and lorries commute between the villages. On market days, there is intense activity. Many traders and customers are on the road. Since the dirt tracks are unpredictable and the vehicles are in bad shape, each trip becomes an adventure. In the past few years, Abdoulaye Dombele has been driving for a transport entrepreneur. He's a focus driver because no one is immune to unwanted surprises on the dusty dirt tracks. Abdoulaye knows many of his passengers. In order to keep them happy, he talks to them. He wants them to feel that they are in safe hands.
Accidents happen all the time here. There are so many bends in our roads. God has blessed me with luck. Since I've been working, I've not had an accident yet, but cars keep tipping over. The roads are in bad condition. Not a month goes by when you don't hear of a car having tipped over. The drivers who are not from here, they just go too fast.
Abdullah's passengers are traders and merchants. They travel from market to sell their goods. They only take the minibus in the dry periods. When the rains come, they travel in boats. Cars would get bogged down in the mud and water.
We are done for when the water disappears between Jafara Bay and Tenenku. Then there are a lot of potholes and the dust is awful. Now it's just torture. But that's the way it is. Whatever work you do, you can't run away from it. Only when God releases you, you can get away from it.
For about 7 months, between October and May, it's dry. Then it's high season for transports over land. As soon as the first rain comes, the region turns into one huge sheet of water. In central Mali, in the Massina region, the river Niger, one of the mightiest rivers in the world, floods large areas. The dirt tracks disappear. Only when the water retreats can the villages be reached by vehicle again. What is left is sand and dust. The dry, hot northeast wind from the Sahara, the Harmattan, brings even more dust. In March and April, the temperature soars to over 50 degrees. It's misty for weeks on end. Vehicles have trouble picking their way between broken earth and washed-out forts. It takes time for new dirt tracks to be created. The heat makes people short-tempered. An argument between the carriers who are loading up a truck. What's it about? Probably only the one who is most upset knows for sure. His co-workers hope that the racket won't last long. They prefer to preserve their strength. The work is strenuous. Countless bags of onions, dried fish, millet, spices and mangoes need to be loaded onto the lorries. They often weigh 30, 40 or more kilos. There is hardly anything that isn't taken on, be it an individual piece or a mass product. It's all a question of price, space and goodwill. To ensure that the lorries don't tip over, the heavy stuff goes at the bottom, into the middle if possible. Sekou Ndaye knows about the importance of correct loading. He and his colleague, Diadje Maiga, have been driving their lorry through the savannah half their lives. Although they are not blood-related, and each is his own boss, they feel like brothers. Togetherness in the bush and the challenges of the job have forged a bond over the years.
The routes are dangerous. At first, it seems easy to drive between the bushes and trees. But if you go fast, accidents are quick to happen, especially around bends. Traffic has increased. There are more mopeds, more cars, and more donkey carts driven by the villagers. If you think, I know the way, there are no potholes, and you drive fast, you can easily bump into a cart driver or a moped, or you crash into another car.
Next up after the goods are the animals. They travel together with their owners. To make sure nothing is lost during the trip, the load is secured with ropes, cords and straps. Diadje and Sekou are responsible for the transport. They have to make good for any loss or damage. The passengers are the last to come on board. How they get up there is up to them. They take their goods on board too, so they can always keep an eye on them. It takes time for everyone to find their place. The people wait in the heat for the departure. There are always arguments about who sits where. On top of the driver's cab is the most comfortable place.
Hey, tell him to fix the water canister. The water canister. Take it off there and fix it here.
Whenever possible, Diadje and Sekou drive in a convoy. That way, the drivers can help each other out in the event of an accident or breakdown. Some latecomers arrive who also want to travel. The drivers wait for them. They depend on every single customer. As long as Diadje and Sekou don't arrive too late at the next station, no one will complain. For now, everyone is glad that the trucks are finally moving. Even if there are initial difficulties. The passengers are stoic about the fact that the trucks drive too closely to the trees and they get hit by branches. If they were going any faster, this could cause serious injuries. The trucks struggle through the savannah like swaying ships. The land is dusty and dry. Strangers would get lost on these trails, as there are no signposts showing which dirt track leads where and when. Sekou knows the region like the back of his hand. Even so, he has to concentrate.
If you have a full load, for example, and there are people sitting on top of that, you have to be careful how you drive, because they could be sleepy. If they doze off, don't hold on, and the car tips to one side, they could fall off. And they could also fall off in bends if you go too fast.
The passengers who sit on the edge have to make sure the hard spikes of the thorn bushes don't hit them in the face. Their eyes are smarting, and their strength is waning. The heat and the dust make you tired. But the people watch out for each other. After all, they are all not in the same boat, but on the same truck.
If you get on and don't hold on properly, you fall off. That's why we sit close together. You have to hold on to someone else who will hold on to another person. If there are too many people, that's no good. Why did I get on the truck? Because the driver is careful. Also, because the road is not good. The driver is responsible for me, and he's driving slowly.
Abdoulaye Dembélé has stopped his minibus for a break in Dia, a small village along the dirt track. Some of the passengers have got off, and new ones get on to get to the market. It's up to the drivers to make sure they have enough customers. There are a lot of minibuses competing, and word gets around which car is more comfortable and faster, and which vehicle always breaks down. Careful and responsible driving also matters, but above all, people who use minibuses as a means of transport are in a hurry. It's important for Abdoulaye to arrive safely, The paths themselves are packing a punch, and he doesn't want to take additional risks by driving carelessly.
It is normal on the bad paths that there are no petrol stations along the way, and they take long. You need the entire day just for one way. You can't go back and forth twice. You can only drive one way in one day because the way is so difficult.
Through the cracks, dust gets into the minibus. It gets into everything, including the passengers' pores. There is more dust than air to breathe. The temperature rises to almost 60 degrees. Your skin dries out. There's no escape. Grit your teeth and hold on.
People have to put up with great hardship, all because of the bad roads. The drivers also have problems. It's slippery everywhere because they refuse to upgrade the roads. If the roads were good, many mishaps wouldn't happen. But this is part of our work as traders. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't be traveling here.
In places where hardly anyone travels, and vehicles rarely break the savannah's silence with their noise, there is hustle and bustle on market days. It's rush hour on Mali's dirt tracks. The roads are full of people and their animals. Since the dirt tracks are not made for a lot of vehicles, dicey situations occur again and again.
Did you see, when he went by us so closely, we bent forwards to protect ourselves from the dust. That's why we fear the car. Horse and carts are better. We don't like cars. They get up to a lot of nonsense. We drive very slowly. I'm afraid of cars.
Since minibuses and trucks started driving on the dirt tracks along with the donkey and horse carts, there have been more accidents. The different speeds don't go together well. The horses are spooked because they're not used to having cars speed past them like lightning. They are used to a different pace. Life in the savannah has a more leisurely rhythm than life in the city. For these people, a horse and cart is still the most affordable means of transport. It doesn't need a petrol station or garage. Minibuses are a threat to this infrastructure.
There is competition between us, absolutely. They don't want us to transport people. If everyone can make some money, that's good. But they want to take all our passengers, and we're left with nothing. That's the way it is.
The horse and donkey carts are still in the majority. The horse and cart approaches Dionjori, where there's a market day today. The passengers on the two trucks have also arrived in Dionjori after the trip through the bushland. Diadje is relieved every time the transport goes smoothly. Although the villages are not far from each other, 20, 30 or 50 kilometers at the most, traveling through the wasteland is tiring even for seasoned lorry drivers. As soon as the lorries arrive, they are unloaded. The market only lasts for a few hours, so traders and customers want to make full use of them. The drivers would like a break, but Diadje and Sikou have to inspect their lorries. They know that some things need repairing. Abdullah has also arrived in Diondjuri with his minibus. He helps the passengers get out. Happy customers are important to him. He hopes that his guests value his helpfulness and friendly manner and will travel with him again. The Diondjuri market is right on the river Niger. In the dry season, it can only be reached overland. Since there are no shops in most of the villages, people have to go to the markets. It's one of the few opportunities to do business and get the necessary supplies. Diadje and Sekou's apprentices only fix things they have a knack for. Usually that's the small stuff. Screws that have got loose from vibration, or the bonnet that won't close. Since the lorries are old, something always needs fixing.
When you've been driving for a week, you need to check the entire car. We were supposed to rest today, but if we did, it wouldn't be good. We need to check the car. What happened on the trip? Where did something get torn off? What's come loose? We need to maintain it all the time.
On the last trip, there was a problem with the starter. Diadje suspects that there's an issue with the alternator. Together with his apprentice, he goes to a garage on the edge of the market to have it checked. Only larger villages have mechanics. If Diadje's lorry breaks down in the bush, he's out on his own. Diadje knows his lorry's kinks and glitches very well. Before he goes out on the dirt track again tomorrow, he wants to make sure that his truck is in a good state. The market finishes in the early evening. People are going home. The wind blowing the dust across the savannah has died down. Temperatures will cool off overnight, but only for a few hours. Diadje has taken some customers and their goods to a remote village before sunrise. He's traveling in the land of the Pearl, the tribe of cattle farmers who live as nomads all over Western Africa. The Pearl roam the savannah with their cattle, always looking for food for their animals. Except for animals and a few shepherds, Diadje meets no one. If his truck breaks down now, he will be alone with his apprentice, a helper, and a few passengers. There's no mobile reception for getting help. It's an eerie emptiness.
There are no mechanics, no garages, no spare parts depots along the way. If we break down, we need to fix it ourselves. Sometimes there are highwaymen. That can be scary. It's happened to me twice. They made people get off the car and had them lie down on the ground. They searched their pockets and took off. They let everyone go on. They didn't kill anyone. They didn't even shoot their guns. They just shoot the air, threaten you, take your money, and disappear again.
Today, bandits are not the problem. Tharcien feels that something is wrong with the truck's chassis. He calls his apprentice to check what's wrong.
I'll get off. Move the prop shaft a bit. Oh, just shake it a bit and check it. Look at the back. Twist the prop shaft to and fro. In the center. Check the center. What's it like? Still working? If it's still okay, that's fine. We'll change the ball bearings when we get there. Do we continue? We're off.
Although his apprentice didn't find anything, Tharcien wants to be on the safe side. He prefers to trust his instincts and experience instead of assuming that the ball bearings of the prop shaft will hold out.
Not 2 weeks go by without us having to weld something. These trucks are old. We weld something on every trip. You set off and something breaks and you need to change the spring.
Tharcien and Sekou drive a legendary French vehicle, a Bélier lorry. Even though production stopped over 30 years ago, Sekou can't think of a better lorry for the desert and the savannah.
This Bélier is my fifth one. The fifth! We never sold any of them. We drive them until they break down. Only when they don't work anymore we'll buy a new one. The broken lorries are spare part stocks for this one. One of the broken ones is our pharmacy. If anything is missing here, we'll take it out of there and put it in here.
Back in town, Tharcien wants to get replacement ball bearings for his prop shaft. Since there is no supplier for parts like that, he checks one of Sekou's old Bélier lorries. It was left on the edge of a square. Tharcien and his apprentice check if the ball bearings really are better than the ones in his truck. The men are skeptical. Tharcien prefers to buy new ones. Tharcien would never take his truck to the next bigger town where there is a spare parts depot. He would be gone for days and his losses would be enormous. That's why he asks Abdoulaye.
The center ball bearing's no good. We checked it and it's unusable. When you go to Jenny, can you get me one? No problem, I can bring you one. Will you make it to Messina? We'll make it to Messina. When I go to Jenna, I'll look for one for you.
Once a week is cleaning day. The lorries should shine in their old glory. It's a task for Tharcien's apprentice.
We wash the engine so it can recover. When there is a lot of dirt on it, it gets hot. That's why we remove the oil and everything. Then it won't get so hot. And it can also happen that the engine is covered in dirt, and then a screw falls off somewhere and you can't even see it because of all the dirt. You see nothing.
The water from the river Niger inspires the men to clean especially thoroughly. and also because the whole process is a refreshment for them.
Oh man, that path is a disaster. Couldn't be any worse. Look, Osman, you start before sunrise and drive until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If there was a road with tarmac to Tenenku, we'd need no more than 2 hours. Yes, no more than 2 hours.
Before the trip can continue, a flat tire needs changing.
Are you done? Let's go. It's okay like this. Put it in. If the nuts don't go in easily, leave them. Your pettiness bothers me. You always keep a sharp eye on me. Do your job and let me do mine. You're making me nervous here.
It's late before the lorries can leave. For the drivers, it's not a problem. They can camp anywhere. But first, they have to take their passengers home. The advantage of driving at night is that the air cools down. Besides, the lorries can go faster. In the beam of their headlights, they can make out potholes and ditches more easily. Siku, Diadje and Abdoulaye have made camp in the middle of the savannah with their colleagues. They feel at home here and enjoy their trucker lives. It's been a long day. They're hungry. It'll be a quick meal. The men talk about their vehicles, the state of the dirt tracks, and the weather. During the dry season, they are on the road day and night, even at the weekend. In those 7 months, they earn the money for the entire year. A few hours of sleep, and they start again. Early in the morning, it's already getting hot again. It hasn't rained in months. Lots of villages in the savannah are far away from the important transport routes. For those people, it's a blessing to have a lorry come to them once a week. This way, they can shop at the faraway market. Siku personally makes sure that every passenger pays up. The fare is equivalent to about 50 cents. Not a lot for the almost hour-long trip, but for people who have very little, it's a lot of money. Siku will take anyone who wants to come along. There is no maximum number of people who can find space on the truck. The people wouldn't get to the market without the lorry. Siku is proud of the fact that he is indispensable for the inhabitants of the region.
As far as the roads are concerned, my father built himself a reputation in his day. Then I came along and, thank God, was able to build up a reputation too. My father's car, where it didn't go, no market could develop, and I'm the same. Where I can't go, no other car can go. There won't be a market. I've really made my mark.
The donkey cart means that the market is not far now. For most people, market days are the only distraction in the everyday drabness. What people in other places take for granted, like shopping and selling the bare necessities, becomes a major exertion and fight for survival in Mali's savannah. People have to travel for an entire day to get a few tomatoes, fruit, some noodles, the occasional piece of meat, and a bar of soap.
The road means great discomfort for anyone on such a trip around here. The road's not good. The way people get on the truck, we're standing on our feet from one place to the next. It's great agony. Your legs don't get any relief. That's what makes it so hard.
Abdoulaye sets out to cross the Niger. At this time of year, the river is a mere stream compared with its size after the rainy season. In some places then, it gets so broad you can't see the other side. Abdoulaye wants to get the ball bearing for Diadje's lorry in Djenné. The town is 150 kilometers away. The Niger is like a border. On the other side of the river, the vegetation is lusher and the roads are paved. Driving a taxi is no dream job for Abdoulaye. He does it to feed his family.
I'm the oldest and have 3 younger brothers. They put all their hopes in me, Abdoulaye. If someone gets ill, I step up. If someone needs something, I step up. That's why I came to Tenenkou to work. I've never seen anyone from the town who goes to work in the village or bush. If they see me here driving in the bushland, I'll be poorly off.
The tarmacked roads of the bigger towns tempt people to drive faster, so accidents happen. A lorry loaded with tons of corn wanted to overtake another truck and spun out of control. Since there was little traffic at night, there wasn't a pile-up. The drivers were lucky. They got off with minor injuries. Abdoulaye has reached Djenné with its marvelous clay mosque. In the town centre, right on the main square, he knows of a trader who stocks spare parts for Bélier lorries.
I need a ball bearing. What kind of ball bearing? One for our Bélier lorry. This is a ball bearing for the center. How much is it? Give me 5,000 for it. Oh, big brother, 5,000's a lot for that. Yeah, times are tough around here. I think 5,000's a good price. Let's not ramble on. Let's agree on 4,000 now. Oh, my dear man. Give it to me for 4,000. You know we don't make much money with our old vehicles.
On the other side of the Niger, in the Massina region, Sekou and his lorry arrive at the market. His passengers have survived the journey pretty shaken but unscathed. They have only a few hours to look around and do business before they go back. Most of them know each other, as they regularly take the lorry to the markets. But as they belong to different peoples who live in this area, they often don't speak the same language. Sekou is warmly welcomed by the village elders. They have known him since he was a boy and used to accompany his father here. Along the Niger, there are always markets. Big cattle markets are rather rare. From far away, as far as the Sahara and neighboring countries, Mauritania and Niger, come the cattle traders. Often they travel for days and weeks to sell their livestock. The chances to do business are good, because the Pearl like to buy cattle, sheep and goats to restock their herds and flocks. Sekou, Diadje and their apprentices and helpers are sitting in the shadow of the lorries, waiting for the market to end. They're resting before the next trip. They're a community which sticks together.
For example, in the rainy season, a car can get stuck. Then it's easier when several people travel together. Also, when one of them breaks down, many people can help out. When the car doesn't start, you can help each other out, and when something else breaks down, you get together and fix it together.
The radiator is leaking. On the way back from Djenné, Abdoulaye has problems with his minibus. A mechanic fixes the leak temporarily. If Abdoulaye wants to get to the agreed meeting point with Diadje in time, he has to hurry. Abdoulaye made it just in time, before Diadje sets out again.
Here, I got you this. Ah, that's it. That's exactly it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for trusting me.
Diadje doesn't have time to fit the ball bearing. He's running late already. He hopes that the prop shaft will last until the next stop. But first, the passengers need to take their places. The engine must be running, and none of the passengers must fall off the lorry. The dirt tracks have no beginning and no end. It's a never-ending circulation between the villages along the dirt tracks for many months. When the rainy season comes, they disappear until they reappear again, made by the drivers and their cars.
Oh no, it doesn't get boring. It's work. It's your livelihood. So you have to work. And everyone has their very own work. Understood? Day and night. It doesn't get boring. It's our work after all. And our work is this because we love it.
However well the drivers know the way, it will always be a trip into the unknown.
It's regarded as one of the most dangerous roads of the world, La Carretera de la Muerte, the Road of Death. Year after year, many people die here. Some go looking for adventure. Others depend on this road. For all of them, it's a risky ride. South America. Bolivia. Starting in Ixyamas, situated in the tropical lowlands, the road leads 500 kilometers up to the plateau of the Andes at almost 5,000 meters altitude. The destination is the megacity of La Paz. At the peak of the route, La Cumbra Pass, spiritual healers evoke La Pachamama, Mother Earth. Their shamanic powers are supposed to cast out negative, harmful energy. The shamans sacrifice their offerings to Pachamama. People are supposed to remember what they are doing to Mother Earth. Roads carve themselves into the soil like scars. The priests beg for forgiveness also for those driving on these roads. They want to protect them from accidents and harm. Omar Perea has been working as a truck driver for more than 20 years now. There is hardly a single road in Bolivia that he hasn't traveled. The road to La Paz is his home route. He transports timber from the jungle. His load weighs 25 tons. Without any incidents, the journey takes him 3 days. It's still his dry season at the end of October, so the road is quite dusty. In a few weeks, it'll start raining. The road will be drowned in mud and morass, and there is hardly any kind of movement possible. But for now, the drivers are fighting the stifling heat and the dusty air. Omar is driving quite fast. He's using the opportunity to make kilometers. His co-driver hardly knows the road. He wants to learn about its pitfalls from Omar.
There are dangers everywhere. You must not make mistakes. The truck could break down. There is a lot to be sorry about.
When you're on the road, anything can happen.
The truck is stuck. The wheels are spinning.
It's deep, really deep. Put it in there. In there. I have to see for myself.
Jaime is looking for holes in the ground and fills them up with stones.
On the other side, it's deep too. Put these leaves underneath.
The palm leaves supply the necessary grip. Only Omar's skill and the full force of the engine can help to get the vehicle out.
It rained in the morning. The road is muddy. The rain has made it worse. The wheels and the shaft have sunk in. That's why the truck wouldn't move. It was as if someone pulled the brakes.
Omar has to be especially careful with river courses. If water penetrated the engine, it would destroy it. The trip would be over before it even started. Only few roads that are passable for trucks lead through this sheer, endless jungle. The humidity of the tropical rainforest evaporates in misty clouds from the thicket. The truck feels its way through the wall of fog, only a few meters of visibility. A collision with an approaching vehicle would be fatal.
Jaime, there's always fog here. Always. You have to pay attention, you could get lost. We're losing a lot of time. We have to drive slow. We can't see a thing.
Nabaki lies on the banks of the Rio Beni, on the inflows of the Amazon River. Trucks are waiting to cross the river here. The ferry consists of a simple wooden pontoon. The pontonero instructs the truck drivers. The crossing takes half an hour, and only 2 trucks can go on at a time. Ferryman Guanera Arias is responsible for bringing trucks and people to the other side safely. He's been shipping the Rio Beni for many years now. He also knows when operations should come to a halt.
This river needs a certain level. You can't always cross. At high tide, the current will carry flotsam, wood and junk and everything that destroys the engines of the boats.
As soon as the ferry lands on the bank, Guanera Arias must anchor it tightly. Iron chains will make sure the pontoon doesn't break loose when the trucks embark. The ramp consists of only 2 logs. They have to carry the weight of many tons. It takes expertise and good judgment to position them properly. By now, Oma has arrived at the ferry. Now it's all about steering the truck across the ramp.
We'll have to be very careful soon when the truck drives onto the pontoon. It has to be driven slowly, very slowly. If he doesn't do it right, there'll be an accident, and that's bad for all of us. Then we have a problem.
One has to learn to drive onto the pontoon. You always have to shift to the so-called crama gear. That's the right combination of braking and driving so as not to push the pontoon away.
Omar and the pontonero have known each other for many years. During the ferry ride, they start chatting. A truck has slipped from the pontoon just this morning. It was tedious work to pull it back out.
The drivers always make the same mistake.
It's slippery.
That's exactly what happened.
The log you drive on moves just a tiny bit. There's a small margin with the gears. It's horrible.
It's worse when the rear wheel spins in the other direction. That's how it slips. That's the problem.
Just around the corner from where the trucks are crossing the Rio Beni, fishermen are hunting for the biggest freshwater fish of the world. Antonio Limashi and Alfonso Carvajal are focusing on the tasty giant catfish.
Where do we throw our net? Where? Here?
Because the dry period lasts longer, the Rio Beni carries less water. One of the reasons why the fishermen catch less. But soon, the fishermen's luck is on their side.
A nice surubí. Today it's difficult. The water level should be higher. But it's low because this year it's been so dry, unlike last year. Once you'd thrown in the net, you'd have caught 4 or 5, up to 10 fish. Now it's still too dry.
Omar has long left the river behind. His path leads him across gravel roads from the lowlands to higher regions. The road is winding from the humid tropical lowlands to the dry high plateau of the Andes. The road is mostly unpaved, and it leads through the breathtaking landscapes of the Yungas. The drivers have to overcome deep valleys and vast canyons on their way. It's left-hand driving on the Yungas Road. The ascending vehicles should not stop, otherwise they'd get stuck. Omar has to fully concentrate. His truck just about fits between the cliff and the canyon. One driving mistake would be enough to make him fall into the canyon. The brim of the road is unpaved, no guardrails at all. And what happens if Omar faces an approaching vehicle? Backward driving is too dangerous. There are only few passing places. Between hope and fear, look out and off you go.
It's a very dangerous spot. Many people have died here. It goes down 150 meters. We wouldn't live to tell the tale. We have to be very careful.
The truck meanders through the canyon. The road was wrested from the rock using dynamite. Along the road, there are countless roadworks. It's being broadened wherever you look. The construction vehicles scratch meter after meter from the soil. It's all about the trucks reaching their destinations faster and safer. Even though rich in natural resources, Bolivia still is one of the poorest countries in Latin America. The expansion of the road networks and an improved infrastructure is supposed to help change that. Because of the roadworks, whole sections of the road are being blocked for many hours during the day. As soon as the road is clear, a true car rally begins. Everyone tries to make up for the time lost. That's when many lethal accidents occur. Whoever doesn't own a car and has to cover long distances must rely on buses. They are comfortable but not less dangerous. Many a bus driver risks the passengers' lives with overtaking maneuvers.
There are people who are afraid. They come from Cajamba, from Santa Cruz. People who don't know how to drive or come here for the first time. They are afraid, but not me. I enjoy this.
We pray to God to reach our destination. My family is worried. If someone from my family travels, I also worry until they've returned home safely.
Fascination and fear are closely related for most passengers. They enjoy the unique view of the spectacular canyons, but often they are only centimeters away from the abyss. It goes down 100 meters or more. For whoever suffers from fear of heights, this tour will become a nightmare, even without an accident.
It's so hot. Let's go, Jaime. Let's have lunch. What's for lunch, Donna? It's so hot, Jaime. What are we having?
A full-course menu.
I'm starving, and I need a drink. Something refreshing.
We have juice and sparkling water.
They are having the usual regional dish, with a soup as a starter. Oma and Jaime have an appointment with Jaime's brother. He's got a special mission for them. The two are meant to bring Monchito, a little monkey, to a friend in La Paz.
The monkey's coming along?
It's not the first time he's going there.
I don't think he's gonna like it.
I hope he doesn't freeze to death.
But he has to help us if the truck breaks down, or else we'll run him over. Okay, we'll take him along.
But Monchito likes the trip, and Oma and Jaime can finally relax for a bit. But the ease of life as a truck driver doesn't last for long.
Jaime, I think we have a flat tire.
One of the overused tires has peeled itself when it was stuck in the mud. Obviously, the rubber mantle was destroyed by the spinning.
It's the tire. Damn, a piece got torn off. No rubber left. You can even see the thread. A piece is missing. We need to change the tire.
Luckily, the nearest garage isn't far off. Oma has the tire changed in the village of Cincuentaidos. The repair works are time-consuming, but Oma has allowed for minor incidents. He uses the opportunity to relax. A few coca leaves have their part in it. They keep him awake and happy.
I'm taking precautions. Otherwise, this might later cost us 2 to 3 hours. Now I only lose half an hour. That's much better. But I don't stress myself out. I even have some coca leaves to calm me down and to rest, since the trip will be tiring.
The farmers in the Yungas harvest the coca leaves just like tea or tomatoes are harvested elsewhere. Albertina Mamani and her husband Valerio are two of the thousands of legal cocaleros. The coca farmers don't regard coca as the basis for cocaine, but as a holy plant, which already the Incas knew and which has a therapeutic effect.
Sometimes we are hungry, and the leaves of the coca help us get over it. We'll hold out till lunchtime. Almost everyone here in the Yungas choose coca.
We didn't have the money to send our kids to school. We didn't go either. There was no money. Coca used to be so cheap. A pound for 1 Boliviano. Nowadays, we get 30, 35, or even 40 Bolivianos per pound.
The value of the coca leaves that Albertina dries and prepares for transport has increased considerably in Bolivia over the past few years. The growing of coca is supported from highest-ranking political officials. President Evo Morales, an ex-coca farmer himself, propagates coca as an economic commodity of the same value as coffee and other fruit. He wants coca to be internationally recognized and not demonized as a drug. Albertina and Valerio make relatively good money with the coca plant. About 2,500 euros a year. They bring the sacks to La Paz, where the coca leaves from the region are especially appreciated. Omar and Jaime have found a place to sleep by the roadside.
Jaime, we need to get some sleep. We have to get up early tomorrow to continue on. When we arrive, we still have to unload the logs. See you tomorrow. I'll dream of angels.
The Altiplano, a high plateau in western Bolivia, is bordering on the Yungas. Llamas are grazing on the meager fields. There are only few paths leading through this area. 1,000 years ago, the Incas used to live here on the Altiplano. Today, it's easiest to visit their paths and cult sites on a motocross bike. Fernando Jordan is following the old paths, accompanied by his friend Mauricio del Solar. They both share the passion for nature, culture, and motorbikes.
You know this is part of the old Inca routes, this whole area.
They set off from here.
Yes, they walked across these mountains and found gold over there.
It's not the first time that Mauricio and Fernando explore the area. They are familiar here. None of the two would set off on a trip like this on his own. That would be too risky.
Heavy rainfall over there.
But we still have to go across here.
Let's search for a different route. We'll go there and then we'll turn off there. I hope it doesn't rain as much over there.
Yes, look, there are clouds over there and the wind is blowing them in this direction.
We have to hurry.
The roads are very dangerous, and there's no help in sight. If something happened, it would take us hours to find help. That's very dangerous because something could happen any time. To have a motorcycle accident would be a bad idea.
That's why a helmet, protective clothing, and a well-oiled bike are essential. The higher up the bikers get, the thinner the air gets. They ride their bikes even above 5,000 meters of altitude. There is an icy wind coming from the mountains. And on top of the wind and the cold, there are wild llamas as additional obstacles.
La verdad que descubrimos cada día una cosa nueva.
We come across new things every day, and that's what I love about this country. To still find new things we can share.
Por descubrir y compartir.
Es muy especial para mí estar aquí.
For me, being here is something very special.
Hace 500 años,
500 years ago, our ancestors walked these same paths to find gold for their jewelry.
Y estar en estos mismos lugares y ver
Driving my motorbike here amidst the llama trails, I feel the energy of this place.
Hay mucha energía.
Omar valiantly continues his roller coaster ride. At a clear road section, he sees sacks and bags at the roadside. His assumption quickly becomes horrible certainty.
¿Qué ha pasado, Jaime? What happened, Jaime?
Qué pena.
I'm so sorry.
¿Qué es lo que ha pasado?
Whatever happened here?
¿Alguien ha visto?
Has someone seen anything? Did this happen last night? Has someone died? Were there two people? Is the driver dead?
El chofer murió.
The driver's alive.
Un pasajero murió.
They're saying the co-driver is dead.
Esto
I'm sorry.
ha pasado por
It happened
dar
because he
paso
had to
porque ha
let an
obligado
approaching
un-
car pass and he came too close to the edge.
El tren no ha cedido, pues,
The
Jaime.
road broke off. You have to be so careful with that.
Tener mucho cuidado.
One has to drive carefully and stay awake. If you're tired, it's better to stop and rest. Some drivers are very tired, but they drive on and fall asleep. That's when this sort of thing happens. It was the driver's mistake.
Caminos peligrosos.
You can make mistakes on this road, but this wasn't one. If the road breaks off and you just try to let someone pass, who's to blame? No one.
Otra movilidad. Pero ¿quién se hace responsable de esto? Nadie.
Lethal accidents are a common occurrence on the mountain roads in Yungas. Omar has lost friends and colleagues too. The fact that nothing has happened to him yet is surely due to his caution, but also to do with luck. His truck is Omar's home for many weeks and months of the year. All the more welcome are the short breaks in which he can refresh himself.
Tie up the monkey over there so you get some fresh air.
Even if Mochito complains about being left on his own for a little while, a short break outside the driver's cabin will do him good too. For Omar and Jaime, the crystal clear mountain water is better than any shower or bath in a hotel room. They get to wash themselves for the first time in 1.5 days, and they wash thoroughly.
Después de un día cansador, que uno
After a very exhausting day, you are knackered.
concentrada en el camino.
You had to keep focused the whole time.
Gracias que pasen el camino. Tomarse un baño.
After having seen this accident, the best, most relaxing and most beautiful thing to do is to have a good wash.
Más rico porque ya estoy refrescado.
Now I'm ready to go back on the road. It feels as if I washed off kilos of dust. That's great.
Está lindo.
Isn't it, Jaime?
No, Jaime.
Omar leads the life of a trucker. And as you would expect from a captain of the roads, he has a different girl in every town.
Y al conocer uno también
You get to know new people, new attractive women if you're on the road. Not only in this country, but also in others. Truth is, I have 2 wives. With the first one, I have 2 children, and one with the second one. There are some difficult moments. I've only got 1 pair of hands, you know.
Omar stops in Coroico to meet his second wife, Veronica. He only sees her a couple of weeks. She knows about the situation she's in.
Yes, I am jealous. I've traveled with him and seen many things. Beautiful women talking to him. They come, smile at him, and talk to him. Yes, I'm very jealous.
At All Hallows, people commemorate the dead at the cemetery of Coroico. The family has come to put down flowers at the graves and to commemorate the dead. Omar also uses the short stopover to decorate Veronica's father's grave and pray together with Veronica and their son.
We are in touch with the souls, and I always pray, not only here, but also if I'm on the road, so they'll accompany us and keep an eye on us.
All Hallows is a very jolly celebration in Bolivia. Even marching bands play at the gravesides. The tomb slab serves as a table, so if in fact the deceased actually want to join the celebration, food and a table are provided for. Figurines made of bread, sweets, fruit, and alcohol are available too. Children and adults go from grave to grave and pray for those whose names are being called out by the relatives. They, in return, are rewarded with the gifts on the graves. For Omar, it goes without saying that he too visits the graves of strangers and prays for them. That's the custom. The celebration goes on until nightfall, but Omar has to get a move on. The passage that brought about the road's byname, Road to Death, is still to come. The Carretera de la Muerte leads from Coroico 65 kilometers across almost all Bolivian climate zones. It surmounts 3,000 meters of altitude. Within a short time, the weather changes. Rain clouds appear from the depth and turn the often only 3-meter wide road into a dangerous track. Little rivulets turn into torrents. Water is coming from everywhere. The ride turns into a skidding slide.
I'm not afraid, but I don't trust the road. In this rain, the road is wet and sodden. It can break off at any moment. There could be rockfall. If another car approaches, it may well get too narrow, and we won't be able to pass each other.
Up until a few years ago, the road was seen as the most dangerous in the world. Each month, cars would fall down. There would be many deaths and injuries. For a few years now, there is a bypass, but still Omar takes the Carretera de la Muerte because it is shorter and saves gasoline and time.
Welcome to the road of death, my friends. I like this section best. It takes about 2 hours to drive it. You should be extra careful. There are huge rocks and potholes. 90% of the accidents occur in the curves, so slow down when you get there.
What truck drivers consider to be work is pure love of adventure for the mountain bikers. Many agencies have discovered the Carretera de la Muerte as a tourist attraction. With guides to accompany the tourists, they sell the ride into the depths of the mountains as a special experience. The road to death is considered to be one of the main tourist attractions in Bolivia. It leads downhill all the way. Even so, the cyclists must concentrate hard as to not let the tour end in a free fall.
Okay, chicos.
A few photos are being taken for the family album, or rather, the online friends across the globe.
It's been one of my dreams ever since I came to Bolivia to ride the Yungas Road. In the beginning, I didn't dare, but was full of adrenaline, and so I just do it now. It's great fun.
The kick you get out of riding down, once you realize you could fall down 1,500 meters, is incredible. This feeling when you're riding close to the edge, it's like flying. It's impossible to explain.
Omar has almost made it. He must never lose his concentration or get careless. The road is unpredictable to the very end. The weather has improved, but the road surface still is sodden and spongy. Then, finally, Omar leaves the dirt road and reaches the final section of his route. From here onwards, the last kilometers to La Paz are paved.
The first thing I do is to thank God for sparing my life. I beg Him to grant us a safe passage, to help us stay concentrated, have no accidents, and make no mistakes.
The Royal Cordilleras accompany Omar to the peak of his journey. Omar makes a short stop at La Cumbra Pass in 4,650 meters of altitude. In the freezing cold, he commemorates the dead whose lives this road has claimed. He thanks Pachamama, Mother Earth, for sparing him so far and prays for mercy and his family's well-being. La Paz, the journey's destination. It's the highest megacity of the world. Its houses are built at an altitude between 3,200 and 4,100 meters. Oma has to go to the opposite part of the city. His client is already waiting for the logs there. In the meantime, Jaime is taking Monchito to his brother's girlfriend, where he is eagerly expected. After having mastered all the adversities that the road to death holds, one last challenge is awaiting him.
Driving through the city is the most exhausting part of the trip. There are many small cars, the streets are narrow. The cabs just stop wherever they want, and minivans too. That makes me angry.
The ride ends in Al Alto, outside the city gates. This is where the lumberyard is. Oma has fulfilled his duty. He delivered the logs safely and on time.
The goods have been delivered to their owner. He's happy and so am I. I already need to start thinking about the next tour. I have to see where I can find a new load and then drive back. But it feels like a victory to me. I did it.
Manitoba, Canada. Temperatures go down to below -50 Celsius, one of the most inhospitable regions of the Earth. As soon as the swamps and marshes are frozen, the ice road season begins. It's the only period of time in which the inhabitants of these isolated areas can be supplied with goods. It's a short period of time. Everything that people need for the course of the whole year must be brought there within 2 to 3 months. The problem is, no one knows for exactly how long the deep frozen swamps and lakes will be passable for the 40-ton trucks. Every single trip to the north is a risky ride. Hot roads, the Canadian ice roads.
We're gonna offer a little bit of tobacco to the smudge here. We're going to put some of that tobacco in our pipe. We're offering this pipe as a way of our acknowledging that you're gonna have a safe trip. I want you to
Scott Campbell's ancestors belonged to the First Nation, the country's native people. He is proud to be one of them.
Pray out loud for those things that you want on this journey. And then after that, you and I will smoke that pipe. Well, you got lots of hair anyway. Yeah.
Ahead of Scott lies a dangerous trip for which he wants to prepare himself spiritually.
I pray to my family that they're kept safe when I'm on my long journey, and to be able to come back home safe.
Scott and Chief Calvin conjure up the mystic white buffalo woman, a powerful being and patron of the North American natives. Scott has promised a friend to transport an urgently needed snowmobile across the ice roads up north. With the snowmobile on the back of his truck, he sets off on a long, lonely trip. The white buffalo woman is supposed to accompany and watch over him.
Spirituality is connected to traditions and customs and to family. And I find that every religion or race has their own beliefs. Native people tend to be very spiritual, very tied to the land. And to me, in my heart, if you don't know where you come from, it's sometimes hard to find direction in life and find out where you're going.
His journey begins in the heart of Canada, not far from the border to the USA. Winnipeg, the capital of the province of Manitoba. From here, the route leads almost 1,300 kilometers further north to a little community called God's Lake. Last warnings on the way into wilderness. In wintertime, God's Lake, like many other villages, can only be supplied via the ice roads. The transportation of goods is a tough business. Most transports are organized by the state and are contracted out amongst the road haulers. It's a question of money and speed. Both man and material are extremely under stress.
Anyway, main part.
Every truck that manages to return safely is put to the acid test before being sent out back into the cold. Hugh Rowland earned his money already at the age of 15 as a construction worker, building the ice roads. After 30 years in the business, his colleagues call him Polar Bear.
I mean, people used to get up there and the truck would break down. And if your truck broke down, in 15 minutes you didn't get it going, you were stranded there. I've had guys freeze to death, freeze their feet, freeze their hands. And you can't leave your truck because of the wild animals. You get eaten by polar bears, wolves, so you have to stay with the truck, and that's how people freeze to death. I mean, it's 60 below up there. It's not a nice place to be with no heat.
Vlad Pescod arrived in Canada as a young man with $42 in his pocket. Today, he owns a freight forwarding business. As soon as the first snow falls, he sits on the driver's seat of his 40-ton truck again.
This is my baby, you know. I sleep truck, I eat truck, I breathe truck. I mean, if something happens to my truck, it's devastating. It can cost me my life. So everything's got to be tip-top. That's why I'm checking every single bolt, every single nut from bumper to bumper. Everything's got to be tip-top. If it's not, it can break down up there. There is no way to pull over and fix something. It's minus 40, you know, you freeze to death in half an hour.
When I was a kid, you know, I wanted to be an astronaut or a president. Actually, I wanted to be a pilot, but my father, he drove the truck his whole life. So I knew when I was young that that's gonna be my future too. I was always interested in the truck, and I got diesel underneath my fingerprints when I was really young, and I guess, you know, once you get a little bit of diesel in your blood, it's really hard to get rid of it.
As soon as the road patrol releases the ice roads, the ice truckers are on the road. Every tour means cash.
When I first started it, it was real adventurous and it paid good. And of course, you know, I raised my whole family driving the ice roads and everything, so I just kept doing it. Now I'm just passionate about it. I can't wait to do it every year. I can't wait for the ice to come in, and I get up there and I get to drive them, and I wait for it every year. I love the ice roads. It gets in your blood, you just keep doing it.
The loneliness of the Northern Hemisphere begins just a few kilometers outside the city of Winnipeg. Only very rarely do you meet people here. Jim Niedermeyer is one of them. He grew up here. In the summer, he works as a farmer and grows rice up here in northern Canada. During the long winter months, he works as an artist. He used to manufacture mainly furniture. By now, he sees more in wood than simply building material.
You have to see what you're going to do in the wood. The wood has to have some kind of spirit in it that you have to see it. You don't know how it's going to turn out. You start up the saw and you just see what happens. You'll see it pretty quick. You'll know that you could see something in there. You know, there's an eagle, and it's just, you know, the chainsaw is just removing wood. That's all it's doing, but this thing is underneath it. And it's a tool just for removing that wood and exposing that carving.
Along the ice road, people know Jim Niedermeyer. The truckers regard his sculptures as symbols of their home country.
Well, we have a lot of wood out here, a lot of animals. To me, it's got to be part of Manitoba. You know, it's just showing the creatures that are running out in the forest here. I try to bring them back to life in wood. That's my goal, is to bring them to life.
In the meantime, Scott has reached the first frozen lakes. The smooth surface is a temptation for speeding. 100 kilometers an hour, like on a highway.
Makes you worry sometimes because as you're going across, you can hear the ice cracking. It actually sounds like thunder underneath your vehicle. But as long as you stay in the middle and you're safe and you do the right speed, everything's all good.
Where Scott is driving right now is a lake in the summer. The ice roads exist only in wintertime. The through route to northern Manitoba lasts for a few weeks only, and no one knows for exactly how long. Each year in Manitoba alone, more than 2,000 kilometers of ice roads are built through the wilderness. But even in these Arctic temperatures, you can't rely on the great rivers freezing over. Only permanent bridges can help. In the villages of northern Manitoba live mostly members of the First Nation, the indigenous inhabitants of Canada. The state's way of treating them is a dark chapter of Canadian history.
Canadian government has just recently started to deal with some of these things that went on decades ago, but the after effects of the cultural genocide, forced assimilation are seen not only in the big cities but some of the small communities and reservations throughout Manitoba. When you take a person and you rip out their culture and their traditions and you force them to do someone else's that is totally alien to them, they lose who they are. They lose their identity.
The people living in the reservations are completely dependent upon state aid and upon the transportation of goods on the ice roads. Scott visits old friends and relatives on each of his tours to the north.
Hi, how you guys been?
He has met up with Lee Codd to go ice fishing. Lee is a Pine Creek Indian and, like Scott, fights for the remembrance of past injustices.
What they did is, when your kid was 5 years old, they would come here, take all the kids, all the children, and then they'll take them to residential schools, and then they'd either Catholic, Presbyterian, I don't know, some kind of denomination, Christian, and they turned them out to Christianize them and believe in something that they weren't. You couldn't speak our language, and you weren't allowed to talk to your family members, your siblings, and there was a lot of crying.
Lee is trying to make the First Nation members more aware of their traditional way of life. It starts with very practical things.
We would never have gloves like this. We'd have leather mitts, you know, that hides. Caribou hide has that fiber, has a hole in it for a good insulation that runs around this territory here.
Lee wants to connect traditional ways of life with modern life. For example, an ice drill can actually be quite helpful if the ice is thicker than a meter. This balance between the past and modern age is not at all easy for many First Nation members. Ice fishing used to be an ordinary part of self-sufficient life for the people up north. Today, it's more or less a way to pass the time. Many First Nation members have drug and alcohol problems. Lee himself had a hard time too. Now he helps young people and is engaged in revitalizing the traditions of the ancestors. It has helped him to get over his own problems as well.
No bites. I think all the fish are in school. Yeah.
Meanwhile, you and Vlad are still heading up north.
Oh, I know that guy. Well, I just passed you. I'm going up north, going to Centuries. How's the road?
They're not too bad. Once you get up to about 220 there, before you hit Moron Hill, you're going to have to slap your chains on. It's pretty slick up there.
So basically same old, eh?
Same, yeah. Looks pretty good out there.
It's never any warmer than minus 25. Like last year, we had 8 weeks of minus 60 below, and there wasn't one day that was below minus 40. So I mean, you get up there, metal breaks at minus 40, breaks right in half, and then you're screwed. You're not getting out of there. So you make sure you got a sleeping bag that's good for minus 40. So I mean, you always you got to be prepared.
Scott has relatives living alongside the ice road. He wants to stay the night with them, but he isn't going to make it before darkness sets in. The rare trail marks on the frozen lakes are hard to find. They're just simple branches at irregular intervals. And then the snowfall begins. Scott can only hope it's not one of those infamous snowstorms. A blizzard would destroy all trail marks for good, and the snow masses would make it impossible to continue driving. A whiteout is lurking. The white wall, which races across the open landscape as a snowstorm. The inferno of storm and snow makes all orientation impossible.
The best thing to do in a whiteout if you're lost is just stay where you are. A lot of times people will spend hours and hours just walking in circles to the point of exhaustion, and then that's it.
Fortunately, the storm weakens, so Scott can drive on. He wants to make up for lost time. That's when it happens. In a short moment of distraction, he starts to slide and gets stuck. But he's fortunate in his bad luck. Scott is already within radio distance of the next village. Help arrives after a few minutes. Scott's truck is badly stuck in the snow. The second vehicle can't get any grip on the icy track. Finally, the men try to alternately push and pull Scott's truck out of the deep snow. Done. And since everyone knows each other out here, a place to sleep is easy to find. Vlad and Yu have almost reached their destination for the day. 800 kilometers north of Winnipeg, they cross the Nelson River on the concrete dam of a hydroelectric power plant. Worldwide, Canada is one of the major producers of hydro-powered electricity. This is how the province of Manitoba produces more than 90% of its energy. The truckers drive across the last lake of the day in walking pace. Standing still would be potentially lethal because of dangerous cracks in the ice that might occur. Top speed, 5 kilometers an hour. There is air between the ice and the water surface. The weight of the passing truck presses the ice down a bit. It freezes underneath, so the cracks are patched. In spite of all the experience, every single crossing of the ice remains a risky business. Vlad and Yu arrive late at their place for the night along the ice road. They have everything they need for the night inside their trucks.
How did we today? How did we do today?
Well, I think we did pretty fair. She's a pretty decent time getting up here to the ice roads. Yeah, I'm good. I got my coloring book all done, so I'm sack her down for the night.
What time are you getting up tomorrow morning?
We may as well get up around 6 and hit her, eh?
Yeah, that gives me my 13 hours. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, you need all the beauty sleep you can get.
Yeah, you passed on that a long time ago. There is no return for you.
I said I'm too ugly to be on TV. Just show me the money.
Alrighty, man. I'll see you in 6.
Hey, good night.
Okay, good night, man.
The second leg stretches from Norway House to God's Lake, almost 300 kilometers across snow, ice, and dangerously hilly terrain. The next day, in the summer, you'd find swamps and lakes, impenetrable moorlands. Neither boat nor truck could pass here. The roads across snow and ice can only be built in wintertime and if it's cold enough.
One of the things they do if they find out the ice isn't thick enough is they'll send crews out here with big drills that they pull behind a vehicle, and they'll drill a hole in the ice, and as the auger spins through the ice and it gets into the water, it'll pull water up. It's called flooding the ice, so they can actually add inches to the top of the ice to make it thick and safe enough.
The ice must be at least 1.2 meters thick in order for the 18-wheeler to cross the ice safely. Vlad and Yu start their journey early too. If all goes well, they'll make the last 300 kilometers to God's Lake before darkness sets in. They are a well-rehearsed team and have gone through a lot together.
If I go with Hugh on a trip, you know, I feel much more confident. Hugh is a great partner to be on these roads. You know, every single trip something happens. I know I can rely on that guy behind me because he knows a lot.
Well, me and Vlad, we're business partners and good friends, like best friends. So we get along real good, and when we travel together, there ain't nothing we can't pull off. I mean, we know we ain't gonna get stuck in the bush anywhere, and we know we're gonna get anything done that needs to be done. So me and him travel real well together. We know each other pretty fair.
It's the beginning of March. The roads are still in good shape considering the time of year. It may get warmer any day. Then the roads will turn into impassable swamps. Vlad and Yu are in a hurry. They want to drive as many truckloads as possible up north this season.
Come on, boys.
The ice roads have only existed for the last 50 years. There used to be no vehicles up here in the north. It was the time of the sledge dogs. For Dwayne Kabaluk, a construction engineer along the ice road, the dogs are just a hobby. His dogs are Alaskan Malamutes, famous for their strength and endurance. They can manage up to 100 kilometers without taking a rest.
Up in the north, well, basically, they moved around from place to place wherever the food was, and they brought their families and all their belongings with them, and that's what they used the dogs for. And your dogs back then were basically your home pets, treated, well, just like family. And in summer months, when they were low on food, your dogs were basically let loose, and they fend on their own. That's why the dogs still have a bit of prey instinct to them compared to most dogs.
The dogs are not only persevering and tough, they are also capable of defending the freight and their owner against polar bears. Dwayne practices with his dogs almost every day along the ice roads. He hopes next year they will be ready for their first race. Vlad and Yu must stop. In spite of all the hurry, it's safety first. There is one kind of accident on the ice roads the truckers are especially afraid of: a jackknife. That's what it's called when the heavy trailer and the truck twist and wedge together. This must be prevented by all means.
Now, we got about 30 clicks of rough road in front of us. And we're gonna need some added traction because it's really hilly. And with loaded trailers like that, I don't want to end up in the ditch or upside down. So putting up chains so I can basically make those hills up there. Well, if I don't have the chains, best case scenario is I just get stuck until somebody pulls me up. Worst case scenario, I start sliding backwards, jackknife, and basically ended up in a ditch. Truck, trailer, load, you know, we're talking about $300,000 in damages, so I don't want to end up like that. That's why I'm putting all those chains.
The ride through the hilly terrain is an act of balance. If you drive too slowly, you lose the momentum and risk sliding backwards. But if you go too fast, you end up in the ditch and block the road.
What's blocking the road, the truck or the trailer? Everything. Truck's right in the middle. It would be glad I'll take you down there.
One of Vlad and Yu's colleagues has landed in the ditch and must detach the truck now to clear the way. Without the weight of the trailer, the truck is hardly able to maneuver anymore. There's not much Vlad and Yu can do here, but help is on its way. Inch by inch, the fully loaded trucks work their way past the damaged truck. It's only later they learn that their colleague had to wait for 2 days before heavy machinery helped him out of his misery.
Anything you learn on a highway, throw it out the window. I mean, basically you can't hit your brakes on the ice. You've got hills up there and everything. You hit the brakes, your load is going by you. If you're gonna hit the brakes, you gotta use your trailer brakes. No tractor brakes at all, and you gotta have a big set of nuts.
Vlad and Yu want to make up for lost time and speed up. But a lack of attention for just a single moment is enough to cause danger on these icy roads.
How far are you? It looks like I went too fast and I got into the ditch. I might need to pull.
Oh yeah, I see you now. There you go.
A piece of ice was sufficient to derail Vlad's truck. And once a truck starts sliding, there's hardly any stopping it.
Go ahead a little bit.
Okay, I'm gonna lock everything I got.
Doug just put her in gear and fucking step on the gas.
Let's try slow if you can, then just start bumping it.
Yeah.
Okay.
A towing maneuver with 500 horsepower. They got off lightly, though, Just a slight damage to the bumper.
All right, well, I'll unhook it. Yeah, you just touched her in there sideways. That'll be good. Let's rock and roll.
Often enough, the two have experienced that they couldn't continue their journey. They had to hold out for days in their trucks until help arrived from Winnipeg. Many a driver has gone crazy in the loneliness of the north. Last year, a colleague had to be saved by a helicopter. It's truly a dangerous job, but 30,000 people in Manitoba depend on the transportation of goods on the ice roads. For the last part of the trip to God's Lake, the trucks need snow chains. Scott and his light pickup truck are almost there. The snowmobile in the back is still undamaged. The village God's Lake, with its 2,000 inhabitants, lies at the shore of the lake. In summertime, one of the best fishing grounds in Canada. Here, a highlight is awaiting the drivers after a long trip: Healy's Lodge. It's the only comfortable lodging in an area of many hundreds of kilometers. Not only the breakfast is legendary. The homely sitting room is a reminder of great hunting and fishing adventures. For decades, owner Goldie Healy has been making sure the travelers feel at home here.
Morning, Goldie.
Oh, good morning, Scott. Nice to see you too. You made it.
Yeah, it was a long trip, so it's almost 26 hours, but we made it.
Yeah, the road is better this year than most years because we haven't had any melt.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty cold.
It's good though because the road's nice and tight. It was minus 51 this morning, so everything's frozen pretty good. So it made for some good going.
Yes, but I'm going to let you have your coffee.
At Goldie's, practical information as well as tales of the truckers' greatest deeds are exchanged.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Before Scott delivers his freight to a place a few kilometers outside the village, he uses the opportunity to go out on the lake. His old friend Brian, who still goes fishing in the traditional way even in wintertime, has to bring his nets in and has asked Scott for help. The nets between two ice holes a few days ago.
If you're doing it the old way with the picks and the chisel, you got to dig a 3-foot wide hole, probably 3-4 feet of ice, and that's a lot of work. But you do what you got to do in the north. So.
Basic supplies for the locals comes via the ice roads. But a diverse diet, especially one containing fresh vitamins, can only be achieved by hunting and fishing. Brian fishes mostly for his own needs. He sells the surplus fish in the village.
Oh, it's a nice one.
Only a few moments after they come out of the water, the fish are already deep frozen, ready to be taken home. An exceptionally yummy dish if fried in the pan.
I used to do a lot of hunting and fishing with some of my family and that, and to be back out in the community of God's Lake now to help some of my friends now, it felt really good, doing things the way they used to do things and knowing that whatever I put into my day with them was going to help his family out. So it was good. It was worth it. I really enjoyed it.
Vlad and Yu are still at work, but they too have almost arrived at God's Lake. A few kilometers from their destination, the last great crossing of the lake is waiting for them. A safety distance of 500 meters and walking pace are obligatory.
Because when you come onto the ice, it deflects the ice and makes a wave under you. So all the time you're going across that ice, you're actually deflected, and you've got a big wave pushing in front of you. So now he's got a wave in front of him, and I got a wave in front of me. You don't want my wave to catch up to him, because the wave will hit his back tires, break the ice out, and he'll sink. You got to go slow, steady and slow, respect the ice at all times. Go slow going on, go slow coming off, and keep your spacing between the trucks. Because you're not only gonna like kill yourself, you're gonna kill somebody else if you don't respect the ice.
Even after 30 years, the men still hold a great respect for the ice. It's their life insurance on the ice roads. After 2 days of driving, Vlad and you do not want to lose more time. As soon as they are within radio range, they try to reach their contacts in God's Lake.
Hey, Hugh, tell me one more time what's loaded first and what's loaded second.
Okay, the health unit is at the back, and the admin is at the front.
You're going to band office, that's the first load. They're going to unload you, and Ella from Health Authority is going to meet you at the band office and drag you over to the complex and unload the second half.
Okay, so is somebody going to marshal us from the corner up here?
Yeah, Ella is taking care of it.
Okay, come on.
Unloading is manual labor. It takes time, especially if you arrive at the wrong time. Today, they are lucky. The helpers arrive quickly and they make good progress. While 40 tons of load are stored box after box, the driver's thoughts are already one step ahead.
I mean, the whole season, you know, it's like roller coaster. It's like a long-lasting marathon. You know, you load and you start thinking about the trip. When you get there, you start talking about unloading. When you unload, you start thinking about how you're gonna get back. And when you get back, you're thinking about the next load.
Because that's the name of the game. You got to get all these loads up here before the ice melts. And you've seen it today. It got down to only -6. That's too warm for these roads. If that happens for a whole week, we're finished already. The biggest thing I'm looking forward to is getting my paperwork signed and getting back for my next trip.
Scott, too, has arrived at his destination.
Hey, bud, it's me, Scott. I just made it in.
Oh, glad to hear, buddy. How was the trip?
It was good. It was good. It was a long trip, but I got here, I got the sled on the back. Everything's all fixed up.
Right on, yeah. I was beginning to get a little worried. Thought you might have some trouble.
No, it was a good trip. I'll see you shortly.
Right on, buddy. I'll be waiting.
It was a long trip, but I'm glad it's over. It's almost 30 hours on the road, and the roads are pretty decent. But it's only half over now. I gotta unload this and turn around, and then I gotta head back.
In delivering the snowmobile, Scott has completed his mission. Just like you and Vlad, he will now head back as soon as possible. Back across Canada's ice roads, for as long as the ice still carries.